Hello and welcome to the radiotimes.com Doctor Who podcast. My name's Hugh.
My name's Morgan.
He's back after a little break. And this week we're talking all things trailers. It's probably more exciting than actually, watching an episode of Doctor Who is watching a trailer for an episode of Doctor Who, because it's much faster and you don't understand the full context. And there's really good music, so it seems really exciting. And we thought there's a lot of talk at the moment about trailers and lack thereof, and when they're going to appear. So we thought it was a good time to have a look back at some of the modern series trailers. I mean, Morgan, what's the kind of chatter at the moment about trailers that you were telling me about earlier?
Well, the chatter is essentially where is the Doctor Who Series 13 trailer? So I put out a tweet a couple of days ago as a joke, saying, it's the Euros at the moment and Wimbledon. I can't believe at least one of them hasn't seen a Doctor Who trailer awkwardly inserted into the middle. It's a bit of a tradition, isn't it? These sporting events being interrupted by an in no way out of place Doctor Who trailer, and people started messaging me saying, "Oh, what do you know? Is there something coming?" And I was like, if there is, I'm not in the loop. Like it was just a joke, because that's the sort of thing we're used to seeing. So people have started talking about, like, where is the Series 13 trailer? But actually, if you kind of dig into the stats, there's going to be stats, people, be warned. That this is going to be me and Hugh talking dates and numbers, so strap yourselves in. But if you look at kind of the numbers and the dates of when we've got trailers in the past, actually we might be in for a little bit more of a wait for the first proper Series 13 trailer.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people are bringing up the Wimbledon thing because that's when Jodie Whittaker was unveiled as the 13th Doctor back in 2017. And a year before that, during what was, I think, a Euros match, there was Pearl Mackie was revealed as the companion. It's weird that that's only the last Euros tournament, incidentally. Like, that's kind of messing with my head. But because that's how long there is between them, although slightly longer at the moment, obviously. So so there were 2 years in a row they did something like that. The thing is worth noting, I'm not going to go into the stats as much as Morgan. Morgan has more detail. But on the base level, when we look at that Jodie Whittaker trailer, people are like, oh, it was out in Wimbledon, why aren't they doing that this year? I mean, who knows? Maybe they are, but I don't think they are. Basically, that was a bit different because that was unveiling a new Doctor. Also, that wasn't, right before a new series. That was actually about a year and a half or so before we actually saw Jodie Whittaker's first episode. This was while Peter Capaldi was still the Doctor. It was just their way of kind of announcing it. Whereas actually the trailer for Jodie Whittaker's first series, which came out in October 2018, only came out in July 2018, July 19th, I think. So basically, the reason that's significant is because that's around the sort of time we're expecting the new series 13, to come out in a similar sort of slot. So in kind of October time, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier, who knows? So it would make sense, if you're looking at it, to kind of say, oh, that's the last time they had a series coming out at that time. This is how many months beforehand they did that. And similarly, for Peter Capaldi's second series, which was Series 9, that came out around the same time, sort of more like September, I think, but still, around the winter months, and finished in December, I think. That one was July 8th. So again, July, that kind of, I'm just doing a little maths, like 3-4 months before the actual show come out. But as you've said to me right before we did this, I'm going to steal this point. Jodie Whittaker's second series, they only released the trailer about a month beforehand, because it's not a new Doctor. It's not quite. You don't quite need to drum up interest in the same way. It also hadn't been, it hadn't been quite as big a change in the series, so maybe they didn't feel the need, right?
It's less of an event. So it all ties in essentially to, as you said, to when we think the next series is going to air, Series 13,
which we don't actually know. So officially,
but we can make an educated guess, which is that it's been filming since November of last year, right? And they've said it's a 10-month shoot, which means they'll wrap in September probably. Now, looking at Series 12 filming dates, that wrapped up in November 2019, and then the series aired, start of January 2020. So it aired, a couple of months later. So if Series 13 is a 10-month shoot and it's wrapping in September, that probably means, not definitely, but it probably means that we might see it launch in October, maybe even November, especially if you're thinking, there's been all these rumors recently of a series and then specials. If series 13 is leading into, say, a Christmas or a New Year's Day special, it would make sense for it to kick off in, say, October, so that you've got enough time for potentially 6 episodes and then specials to follow. So yeah, look at Doctor Who Series 11 trailer, as you mentioned, that dropped the 19th of July 2018, and then the series launched on the 7th of October 2018. So that's 3 months beforehand. And if we're again looking at an October launch, then we would be expecting a Series 13 trailer this month, right? July. But then Series 12, that trailer dropped November 23rd. 2019, which is of course the anniversary of Doctor Who, but it's only 5 weeks before the Series 12 launch. And to me, Series 13 feels more of a kind with Series 12, in that it's it's always an event when Doctor Who comes back on TV, of course, but it's not the first series of a new Doctor. It's not launching a new Doctor, or even, well, there is a new companion. But we've already had a little bit of a teaser, haven't we, with John Bishop's Dan? So I don't know. My suspicion is that we'll probably get a trailer more in line with Series 12. We'll get a trailer sort of 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time, which would mean more late August. So we've still got a little bit of time to wait.
And by the way, another hint as to when the next series might be on is that there's apparently rumored to be a Halloween episode, or an episode set on Halloween, which is another reason we think the series might air in October, because it would be kind of weird to not have Halloween episode, at least close to Halloween, which they've sort of done before, because they had Waters of Mars was kind of around Halloween, wasn't it? It was sort of supposed to be Halloweeny, even though it wasn't actually on the day. So yeah, no, the one caveat I have for this very logical, pulling out of dates and stuff, is I do wonder whether the BBC, and particularly the BBC press department, considers different times of year differently. So say for Series 12, that Doctor Who series was also part, more or less, of their kind of Christmas content, right? It was a big New Year's special, James Bond style. And so that kind of November time is when they're starting to push the Christmas stuff. It's also a more crowded time period. There's a lot of stuff they want to promote, beforehand, because there's loads of drama and stuff like that airing at once. So maybe they kind of, in the kind of start of the blitz towards Christmas. Also, crucially, that's around the time that the Christmas listings magazines come out, that late period in November. Maybe that was all part and parcel of it. Whereas perhaps if something's starting right at the beginning of autumn, after a big empty summer, maybe in that big empty summer where there's not much drama, they want to kind of throw out a trailer, get people excited, remind them something's coming. But yeah, but I'm not saying this is necessarily true, but it is possible that they, it's not like for like at different times of year. And this could be possibly why we've seen, trailers earlier or later, because obviously Peter Capaldi's second series is probably the least momentous of all Peter Capaldi's series. Same companion, same Doctor, they just sort of carry on. But equally, Doctor Who did do PR a bit differently then. Doctor Who was kind of doing slightly more in the way of trailers and teasers and early kind of chats than they do now, when they're a bit more secretive with the kind of Jodie Whittaker, Chris Chibnall era. So again, there's a lot of different factors as to when and where we could see it. We were talking beforehand though of the glory days when you would get the trailer. I'm pretty sure we got the trailer for Matt Smith's first series, literally the episode that David Tennant leaves. And then at the end, it's like, oh, by the way, this is coming out. But then that was only about 3 or 4 months away, right? When that actually happened. So
yeah, no, I mean, all good points. And also, like, if they did want to put out a trailer earlier, like, again, if it's a 10-month shoot and they've been shooting since November, then now, if presuming everything's proceeding on course, they should be 8 months into a 10-month shoot. So the majority of it's already been filmed. So there's presumably enough footage in like a good enough state that they could theoretically throw together a teaser trailer for early release.
Well, it's the same as Series 11, right? Like they were not quite finished with filming that when they released that trailer. Although they did also, I think even earlier than that footage trailer, didn't they release a kind of here's Jodie and her magical friends and Mandip's eating a pizza, and then someone steals the pizza, and Bradley Walsh is like reading a paper and he goes, he kind of looks around like, what's that gold energy? And then Jodie Whittaker's a ghost who kind of comes out of nowhere.
Well, that was the other thing we wanted to talk about. Now we've sort of made a rough estimate as to when we might see a Series 13 trailer.
It will be at some point.
Yeah, I think what I think what we've landed at is it'll be in August unless it's not, in which case it'll be this month. Brilliant.
Yeah. To be fair, that's pretty. I'd say that's pretty. We're saying it'll be in either this month or next month. I'd say that's pretty concrete in a way. Like that's. We're gonna feel bad if that's not the case.
If it turns up in September.
Yeah. 1st of September, just to spite us.
Yeah. But no, the other thing we wanted to talk about today was those great trailers of the past, right? Those because that's a great example of the custom Doctor Who trailer. Normally there's every series has a more traditional trailer, which is, as you say, cut together from excerpts from the show, lots of exciting music, and it's more traditional. But then not every series, I don't think, but most series of Doctor Who have had those custom trailers, those specially shot trailers, which of course famously kicked off with series 1. Probably the most iconic of all of them, I would say, is Christopher Eccleston alone in the TARDIS. Do you want to come with me? If you do, I should warn you. And he's sort of strutting around the TARDIS and talking about ghosts from the past, aliens from the future, and like that now still, like, it's one of those things that sends a bit of a shiver down my spine. There's that really cool one as well with Billie Piper where she's saying it like, I've got to leave behind my mum, my job, my boyfriend, but I'm going to do, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it says, but then it sort of pans out, and then he's just sort of looming there in the background in the sort of in kind of a sinister way with the TARDIS. I always thought that's like the B side. That's like the B
side.
Yeah,
they have like one where they were at the front each.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. And then they've done variants on that in the years since, haven't they? Like they definitely did one for. I don't remember if they did one for the first David Tennant.
There was one which I dug up in preparation for this, and I don't really remember this one very clearly. Certainly not as clearly as that series 1 trailer. But there's a series 2 trailer with David Tennant and Billie Piper, which is very similar. They were like, well, that was a great trailer. Let's just do that again.
Yeah.
And it's essentially like a follow up where David Tennant's like, oh, you think you've seen it all? Think again. If you come with me, things will never be the same. Like it's very, very similar. Right. But I guess it's, they kind of wanted to say, look, new Doctor, but same show. He's doing the exact same stuff and saying the exact same things. Yeah. So you kind of want it to be the same. You kind of want to reassure the audience at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny with hindsight because obviously people love David Tennant. There was that kind of anxiety. I also remember, like, the thing I remember from that series was that the great, just plugging our own thing here, but I didn't work there at the time. Radio Times cover where they had Billie Piper and David Tennant holding hands, and it was like the pull-out cover and like
the gatefold cover.
Yeah, and Sarah Jane's there and K9, and there's a Clockwork person and maybe a Cyberman. I can't quite remember if they'd revealed them.
No, I know we're biased, but that's like one of the greatest magazine covers of all time.
It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, not a trailer though. It's kind of a trailer, but it's not. Let's not muddy the waters. We'll do a Radio Times cover appreciation another week. I was just thinking of they did change a bit, I think, in the Matt Smith era, because the Matt Smith one, the first one, is like it's them in the vortex, isn't it? And then there's like stuff they're sort of floating around, and then there's a little Dalek in there, and like a weeping angel like flipping around or whatever.
Yeah. So the Doctor and Amy are kind of lying back on a field, just chilling out, and then the field just kind of explodes for some reason, and then they're in the time vortex. And there's monsters flying about, and then a giant Silurian mask, and it's all a bit obtuse and weird. And then prior to that, you'd had a couple more, like those sort of trailers where it's the Doctor and the companion, and they're giving a little monologue. There's one series 3 with the Doctor and Martha, and it's kind of like he said she said type of thing where Doctor doesn't actually come off that well in that trailer, if I'm honest, because she's like, I just try to save money, and he's like, oh, I'll save the universe, and then she's like, I'm going to be a doctor, and he's like, I am the Doctor. He just comes across a bit cocky, to be honest.
It's like weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, but it was shot very nicely. It had a kind of thing where they were shot separately, and then the shot kind of folded, and then you could see they were together.
I remember that one really clearly, more so than I don't really remember the David Tennant first one, but I remember the him and Martha one.
You remember really a good one.
Yeah.
And then series 4, there was one of Donna for some reason staring into a campfire, and that's an odd.
I don't remember that at all.
You need to check out that one, because that's a really odd one, because it's like a Usual Suspects homage, which is not the kind of thing you expect from a Doctor Who trailer, where she's like, I missed my chance to go with the doctor. Now, this time I'll be ready. And then she says, and you hear his voice as well. They say, and just like that, we'll be gone. Like the end of The Usual Suspects. And I'm like, that is a weird flex. And then you follow that up with the 11th Doctor and Amy for series 5, the exploding field. These things are so like, these custom trailers, they were so like specialized and complex. I'm surprised people haven't tried to work out whether or not the trailers are canon. Someone must have made
I never
an
even
argument.
thought of that. But you know what? Someone must have.
But I think you'd be hard pressed to argue that the scene in which the 11th Doctor and Amy are lying on a field and then it explodes and they're flying unprotected around the time vortex. Like, you have to make a strong argument for that being canon. But I'm sure someone out there could. I'm
trying to think. I feel like these sort of trailers, obviously we mentioned there was a Jodie Whittaker one relatively recently, but I feel like those trailers have slightly gone out of fashion. There was that Peter Capaldi Time for Heroes one, wasn't there? But I can't think if there was another one.
You had the Doctor and Nardole and Bill sort of walking through a library that was exploding for some reason, in much the same way as the field had previously exploded for some reason.
Wasn't that the library from Extremis as well? Like, it turned
Extremis, I think it was. Yeah,
probably just a big set they had.
I think it kind of went out of vogue. We were talking before recording, trying to remember if there were actually any custom trailers for series 6 through 9. I don't think they were. I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone will correct me in the comments below. But I don't think there were. But yeah, series 10 you had Time for Heroes, and then series 11 you had Graham being startled and dropping his cup of tea and all of that kind of thing.
I did. He was reading like the Beano annual or whatever, and then Ryan's
that's
a greasy
right.
spoon. And I think again that was a big change. Maybe that needed it. But I feel like they kind of ended up just sort of going more for the realm of like a bit of voiceover over some footage, which kind of does a similar function anyway. Like, you don't quite need that sort of mood trailer in quite the same way.
No, and I don't think there's anything wrong. Whenever the Series 13 trailer arrives, I don't think there's anything wrong with a more traditional trailer that just cuts together scenes and
definitely
those custom trailers are nice. They're a bit more sort of fancy, but actually, again, we were talking before recording, and like some of our favorite trailers, we like those ones, but some of our favorite trailers are just like a really exciting compilation of what's to come, and I Am the Doctor plays over it, and it's there's great ones for. You were talking about series 5.
I am going to say I just love that one so much. Like, I think because I think Stephen Moffat posted it a year or two ago, just saying like, wow, but nothing makes you more nostalgic than what once was the future being the past, or something like that, which is a very Doctor Who line. But it's true. Like, I remember watching that, and it was just so like, oh wow, how exciting! It was also cool that they had so much of it in the bag already, because there was such a thin gap between David Tennant's last episode and Matt Smith's first one. It was January to April or March, even, I can't quite remember. That like they had some. It was quite of a good move, because everyone was really sad David Tennant was left. He was like, no, look how exciting this is going to be. And then
Matt Smith's strutting around Venice, and he's got sunglasses, and he's punching people, and
he's sort of looking down corridors, getting confused and rushing about. And then they had all those shots of the like guest stars in fancy clothes, like Helen McCrory and other people like coming up. It's looked very cool. And obviously that's a great tune, which we hadn't heard before, to be fair. I Am the Doctor.
No,
that was the first time we'd heard that.
I remember there was a really great series 3 trailer as well, which was, again, it was just like snippets from episodes,
so but it has John Sim doing the tap 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 tap.
Yeah,
tap, tap, tap.
The fact that you immediately know the one I mean, and there's a shot of John Sim like on the TV, as in like Saxon, and he's just like smiling evilly, and then there's him on the when everyone else has been gassed, and he's doing the tap 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 tap.
And we're both miming it, which is not great for you guys at home, but it's the way he does it with his hand. Like, he has the 2 fingers, he's got the gas mask on, and he just. I got really confused because I thought that was, I don't know why, maybe I'm just really thick, but at the time, I feel like I vaguely thought it was all supposed to be one episode or something. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was not as.
I think it might have aired potentially, and again, if I'm wrong, I apologize. I think that trailer might have aired at the end of Smith and Jones, so it was like coming up this series.
Yes,
hence why
that's what it
you
was.
may have thought like, this looks like the best episode 2 of all time.
Yeah.
This looks incredible.
Like, how are they going to fit this all in? You know what? I think that's exactly what it was. I think I'd not really seen that whole here's what's coming up next on the series thing. Although I think they have done that once or twice. I do always love those. I mean, the thing is, we talk about those stylized trailers, they are fun, but I think for Doctor Who fans, part of the fun is trying to dissect, what's coming up. And, like I remember when the most recent series, they did that trailer, and then they reveal, like, you see a tiny, like, bit of a Cyberman without seeing very much of him. And I thought that was so nicely done, where you kind of just see a little corner of his head almost, and you kind of instantly know who that is. And I thought that was really clever. And equally, that was a series where they hid, like the Master being in that series at all, compared to the John Sim one. So I do think it must be a bit of a balancing act. But no, that's a good one, because I was when you were saying, best trailers, I was like, well, I definitely remember Series 5. I'm not sure if I remember any others, but I do really remember that Series 3 one. I'm trying to think of any others. I mean, there was that time during Peter Capaldi's last series where they kept doing fake out regenerations.
Well, which brings me on to then, what do we think when it arrives in July/August / early September, when the series? But I'm gonna put my money on August. I'm gonna say August.
Okay.
When the Series 13 trailer arrives, what do we think it will involve? Because those pretty much every Peter Capaldi, it felt like pretty much every trailer for a Peter Capaldi series would be teasing a regeneration. There'd always be a shot of him looking at his glowing hand and freaking out. And if we're starting to think, on some level, this is just pure guesswork, of course, but also, like, we do know some bits about Series 13. Some bits are confirmed and some things are rumor. But, there's all these rumors about Jodie leaving. Could they lean into that? Like, if the rumors are out there, and I guess especially if the rumors are true, could you kind of get ahead of the rumors and play to that in the trailer? Will we see a shot of Jodie looking at her glowing hand, or maybe even just some ominous dialogue about the Doctor's demise and
she's like, I just keep changing. For once in my life, I want to stay the same. Something like that.
Classic Doctor dialogue. And even if she's not leaving, they should
definitely do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Like, edit the trailer in such a way that it looks like the Doctor's gonna go, so that people are like, oh my god, like, play up to the rumors. It could be quite fun. And equally, like, there's stuff that has leaked. Spoiler alert if you're not up to date on the latest leaks, but that we've seen, like, set leaks of shots of weeping angels and Sontarans, and that's out there. So potentially with the Series 13 trailer, there's an opportunity again to kind of get ahead of the game. Don't let this and put those shots of weeping angels and Sontarans, put them in the trailer, so it's kind of like, you might have seen some leaks, some blurry photographs shot from half a mile away, but here's like the official confirmation that those classic monsters are back, and here's them in full glory in the new trailer.
They should definitely put weeping angels in it if they feel like they can confirm that, because that just sort of sends a signal to people. A lot of people know about the weeping angels who don't know about the show, if you know what I mean. Well, they know about the show, but you know what I mean. They wouldn't necessarily have, like, kept up, but they might be drawn back with that. No, I agree. I think, as much as I sort of found it slightly irritating in the Peter Capaldi series, I think they'd be missing a trick to not play around with the regeneration rumors a bit. Like, I feel like that, because if that's going to be they haven't got so many episodes to play with. If that's going to be an arc, we don't know if it is, but if it is, then I reckon they should go all out. They should make the whole thing like, ooh, what's happening? Is the Doctor heading towards a horrible fate kind of thing? I think that's a really fun way of doing it. I was also going to say that nothing proper is ever revealed in trailers anyway. But lest we forget John Sim's really surprising return, they just put it in a trailer, which was really out of character for Doctor Who. So you never know what they might reveal in this one when it finally comes out.
Also, sometimes there's stuff that it might seem like, oh, this trailer doesn't reveal much, and they're just sort of saying the sort of things that people say in trailers, but actually, retroactively, if you go back and go, oh, okay, because I watching that Time for Heroes trailer, it's narrated by Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and she says something along the lines of, I'm going to stick with the Doctor even if it kills me, and it's like, oh, that's a nice dramatic thing to say in a trailer, but actually it did sort of. She sort of died and then got reincarnated as a puddle alien, but she did actually.
I feel like I pulled that out a lot. Like, I remember there was the whole thing of, is Bill going to die? Because we knew, I think because we knew at this point that Jodie Whittaker was coming and Bill wasn't going to be in that series, I think everyone was kind of like, where's Bill going to go? So I think I definitely remember that line being like, a thing. And they were kind of playing with it a bit, I think. Like, they were kind of saying like, oh, that's a bit of an ominous thing to say. Oh, what's going to happen to this, like, lovely new character?
But that's a great example of where, okay, like, what does the audience already know, or at least what the fans already know? They know that Jodie Whittaker's coming next series. They know that this is Peter Capaldi's last series. Odds are it may well be, I can't remember if we actually knew for certain at that point, but we at least strongly suspected it would be Pearl Mackie's only series. So you can lean into that and go, is Bill Potts going to die? Like, even if she didn't, like, it's still fun to tease that stuff. And you could do that in a similar way with series 13 and the departure of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor.
And they did pay it off with Pearl Mackie, to be fair. It's not like they said, oh, it could kill me, and then nothing happened. And she was like, right, I'm going to go and continue my studies. Like, that was relevant to the plot. It wasn't like it wasn't a cop-out, I'd say. Like, I know some people, get annoyed that all the companions live, but it is a family show. And Adric didn't. I think that they set something up there, and they did pay it off in their own way, which I think is good. But yeah, no, I'm intrigued to see what happens. Part of me wonders if we could get one of those sort of, stylized trailers for Dan, John Bishop's character, because we kind of got a very short introduction to him. But it could be him like introducing himself, being like, I'm such a normal bloke, me, love being normal. Which
maybe the big reveal of the series 13 trailer is going to be Dan's last name. That'll be the big thing that gets finally.
And it will definitely be like Johnson or something.
No offense to anyone called Johnson. But
look, my name's Fullerton, which is also quite a sort of nondescript name, but it's not going to be like, De La Rue or something. It's going to be something really like normal.
I think it says something that about like how hungry we are actually for a trailer for the first footage from series 13, that I did actually see a thread on Reddit that was entirely devoted to Dan's last name and what could it be. And people were like, it could be Dan Foreman, and he's like a descendant of I.M. Foreman, who owned the junkyard from an unearthly child. Like, it's like, okay, we've got to this level now. Just give us give us like something actually tangible to theorize about. We need new fodder. We need new something to feed the rumor mill.
Yeah, please feed us. We're so hungry. But what do you think? What would you like to see in a trailer for Series 13? Listeners at home, if you're indeed still listening. When do you think the trailers will come? And do you think we've been waiting too long to see what's next? Remember, we did have a special in January, so it's not been as long as it could have been. But, are you hungry for Series 13 content? Please let us know in the comments or on Twitter at Radio Times. And always feel free to let us know if there's any topics you'd like us to cover in this podcast, because you might have some ideas we don't, and some interesting topics. I don't have a trailer for next week's episode, sadly. Morgan and I were thinking of doing 2 monologues where we kind of archly talk around the point of what we might be talking about next week.
I just sass Hugh. He says something, and then I'm like, well, I do that, but better. That we should, really play up to the vibe of that Series 3 trailer.
But instead, I'll just say, please come back next week, where we'll be back for another edition of the RadioTimes.com Doctor Who podcast. Until then, I've been Hugh.
I've been Morgan.
Thanks for listening, and goodbye.